everyone, and welcome to our training today. Today, we're talking about vendors that can help you jumpstart your business credit building. We're going to dive into at least 5. We might talk about more as well. There's some of our favorite here at Credit Suite that can help you build business credit profile and score that don't require your social or don't require a personal credit check or a personal guarantee for approval. So by the end of this training, you're going to understand what vendors are, how vendors work. You're going to have at least a handful of vendors that you can use to initially start building business credit. We're going to talk about what it takes to get approved, their approval requirements, everything you need to know to be able to use vendors to start building your business credit. For those that don't know me, my name is Ty Crandall. I'm CEO of Credit Suite. The Credit Suite, this is what we do. We help business owners build your business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social. So if we can help you along the way, feel free to give us a ring. Our phone number, 877-600-2487, is at the bottom of our slides. And I'll also include a link for a free guide that will help you build your business credit along your way and also get credit monitoring for 90% cheaper than you'll find at the credit bureaus. Those links are all on the bottom of our slide. So a lot of things are changing right now, right? So as we get into a recession, it's harder to get business capital than it typically has been before. We're kind of in this weird place where there was all this funding that came from the government with PPP loans, et cetera, that was there. We don't know if more will get delivered or not. There's more bills that have kind of gone back and forth, and we'll see what happens. There's even talk of another second PPP loan, which we discussed weeks ago. Okay, but lenders have tightened up for sure. The main product in the lending space for businesses, revenue lending, kind of went defunct, and now we're starting to see some of that come back on a small basis. We saw some of the credit card issuers that were basing credit on the business credit side based on consumer credit quality. We saw that kind of tightened up. So we're in this weird place where there's not a lot of the government options out there. A lot of the options we're used to in the past are harder to qualify. So we're in this place where it's tougher to get capital. And a lot of people have questions about getting capital because it's a little bit tougher than it's ever been before in a time when we all really need to not just survive, but really thrive and pull ourselves through this. So as I mentioned, a lot of uncertainty is happening right now. A lot of things are changing. And so even more important than ever, you need to have a solution that works for you, even when other kind of funding can't. And there's a lot of reasons I can go on and on about why you build business credit, but that's definitely one of them, is that you can get what I'm about to show you today. It doesn't matter if your credit's horrible. It doesn't matter if you don't have revenue or can't verify revenue. It doesn't matter if you don't have collateral. Most kind of money that you need to get from banks, fintech lenders, et cetera, they need one of those things: cash flow, credit, or collateral. Business credit needs none of those. So it really provides a solution when a lot of other kind of funding options can't. So having an EIN doesn't mean that you have established business credit. You can't just walk into your bank with an EIN and expect them to get you credit cards without a personal guarantee or credit check. If you do that, you're always going to get denied. And that is unless you have really good personal credit, and then you might be able to walk out of there with a credit card. But if that's not the case, you're not going to walk in and get real EIN credit from a bank. But it doesn't have to be that way. There's really a very set series of steps you have to follow to be able to succeed in this space. You're not going to start with Visa cards. You're not going to start with MasterCards. I was on a podcast interview yesterday, and this was one of the questions. Hey, once I get some credit at retailers, then what's the next step? I mean, like, can I just walk in my bank and get money? And it's like, no, a lot of people think that you can't jump these steps in business credit building to get these high limit cash credit cards. First, you've got to build your fundability. Then you've got to build initial trade lines or initial accounts on your business credit profile. And that's typically done with what we're going to talk about today, what are called vendor accounts. Okay, then you establish that credit profile. Then you establish a credit score. And then that is what's used to then move you on to other kinds of credit. And this is really the trifecta. You get accounts that report to the business credit reporting agencies, and those are called trade lines. So we're getting trade lines. That gives us the credit profile, that gives us the credit score, and then it's the credit profile and score that we kind of springboard off of to get the other kind of credit and financing that we want to get. So these trade lines are with creditors who will give you initial credit even when you have none. And a lot of them sell supplies that you need in your business now anyways, like shipping supplies, outdoor workwear, ink and toner, office furniture. There's a couple dual uses of these vendors. First of all, they give you credit when you have none, and they report it to the business credit reporting agencies. So they're really great to use as a resource to help you build business credit. But the other thing, especially with COVID-19, is that it also eases your cash flow, meaning that usually what you'd pay cash for or use a personal credit card to buy, you could use these accounts to actually buy instead. So not only are you building business credit, but it eases your cash flow, because what you normally pay cash for, you can now immediately start putting on these credit cards on these vendor accounts, not have to pay that money out of pocket, makes your life easier on the financial side while you're building business credit at the same time. Now, a lot of them offer terms like net 30, which would mean if you borrow $1,000 from them, you'd have to pay back the full $1,000 within 30 days. That's what a net 30 account is. And then there are net 55, there are net 15, net 20, net 60. They all have different terms, but the idea is the same. A net 60 account, or net 55, let's say. Amazon's very popular with net 55 accounts. So if you have a net 55 account, it doesn't have to be paid back in its entirety for 55 days. When you look at that account, then that account gives you nearly 2 months to be able to pay the bill. Okay, so then that eases the cash flow because you don't have to pay that bill that you normally pay in cash for 2 months while building your business credit. So a lot of different benefits there. Now, net 30, again, as we talk about, it's got to be paid back in 30 days. 60's got to be paid back in 60 days. To start your business credit profile the right way, you've got to get credit with vendors that actually report the credit to the business credit reporting agencies. And that's not easy to do. Over 97% of trade vendors do not report the credit that you get to the reporting agencies. And I have a buddy of mine, John, that dealt with the same thing. He said, hey, man, we have all kinds of spin with all kinds of major media outlets. And yet here we are trying to get a credit line and we're not able to get approved. And we're not able to get approved because of our business credit's bad. What's going on? And we just found out that they didn't have any established business credit because they, like a lot of other companies, the problem is they got a lot of credit with vendors, but the vendors didn't report that credit to the reporting agencies. So they think they're building business credit because they pay all these vendors on time, but none of those vendors they're paying are reporting the credit that they're paying. So here they are, they're making all these payments on time to all these vendors. They have all this positive payment history. And when it comes to lenders, when it comes to creditors, when it comes to suppliers, they're not getting credit for that. Nobody's recognizing that they're doing that. So you got to get credit with these rare small breed of vendors who actually will report the credit. Once you've done that, then you can start establishing a credit profile with Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and Experian. Post it says, hey, Ty, I hope you and your family are safe. We are, and I hope you are safe as well. Sorry about my nose. I have like this one little hair that's like wind's blowing against it. Now it just makes my nose itchy. So itching my nose, don't mind me. Okay, so that being said, when we talk about this, once these accounts are actually reported, then you have these trade lines. The trade lines will establish a credit profile. Dun & Bradstreet needs 3 of these accounts reported to establish a credit profile. Equifax and Experian will establish a credit profile if you have no trade lines. But if you have at least one with Equifax and Experian, that will establish a credit profile. And then how you pay your bills, how timely, how late, how early will establish your credit score. So using a newly established credit profile and score, then you start to get approval for more credit. This is when we start to move on to revolving credit. We start to move on to Amazon and Home Depot and Sam's Club. Credit at almost every major retailer. And as I was on that podcast yesterday, this was the same question that I got asked is, hey, how do you get people to not want to jump to the Visa card and MasterCard? Like everybody wants to get there and they don't want to get the stuff in between. And my response was, well, first of all, if you think about it, you never want to go and get a Visa card and use it for everything. Because if I go and get an American Express card and I use that Amex to buy everything, and you look at my credit report, well, then I only have one account that I'm spending money on, only one. And that creates all kinds of issues. But if I went and bought my stuff from Amazon on Amazon using an Amazon corporate card and my stuff from Walmart on a Walmart corporate card and my Staples stuff and my Sam's Club on Staples and Sam's Club corporate credit cards, now all of a sudden my spending is over 5 or 10 cards. And what happens is now when somebody sees my commercial credit report, they see like 10 active trade lines that are all being used. And that combination, that volume of trade lines that's reported helps me get more credit faster. So this is the thing. You don't want to try to jump to the end of the process and get Visa, MasterCards. And what I said in that podcast interview, I said, if you think about it, 90% of what you buy, you could buy in stores. I don't know of many things you could buy right now that you can't buy from Amazon. And there are some things like payroll that you can't. But startups don't have payroll yet, right? So again, don't try to jump to the end of the process. Getting to the next step here where you start to get retail credit is a very important step because almost all the money you want, all the things you want, you could buy from actual retailers. And we'll talk about leaving your social off the application. That's applicable for vendors, but not as applicable for revolving sources. But I'll show you how to get around the credit check and guarantee as we dive in. So what happens though is the same. When you build a credit profile for your EIN that's not linked to your social, when it comes time to get a revolving credit card, you can then go in and refuse to let them pull your personal credit. And they're forced to make the decision based on your established corporate credit for your EIN And if your EIN credit's established, someone to show you today, you can then get approved without the personal credit check, without the actual personal guarantee. And Nika says, good morning. Have you heard of Summa Office Storage and Strategic Network Solutions? Yes, I found terrible reviews on the Better Business Bureau website. Would you recommend? Well, Nika brings up a very good point. She says, hey, Nika says, I have Summa Office Supply and Strategic Network Solutions. We'll talk about one or both of those today. Would you recommend? They have horrible complaints. You are in this conundrum we are in. There's a lot. The vendors that do report often have horrible customer service, and that's what we find as well. So I think it's something you have to be aware of, and I think it's smart that you're checking Better Business Bureau. A lot of these vendors can be very effective to help you build business credit, but some of the ones we'll talk about, like Strategic Network Solutions, they've got big because they report. Like, that's a strength they have. A lot of people in our community that help build business credit recommend them, but their customer service is horrible. And that's the trade-off of some of these smaller companies. So you got to kind of make the decision there. We're going to talk, and Hemi says, what are the trade lines? We're going to dive into those, a handful of those here in a minute. And then Nika says, do you provide access to obtain copies of business credit reports? We do. You can get that at creditsuite.com/monitoring, or you can give us a call. If you give us a call, we'll help you get your credit reports for free with all of the reporting agencies, okay? And Will says, Nika Summa isn't that bad. Just got approved and purchased something for $50, $75. As Will said, if you just use them to help build business credit and you don't really rely on them having phenomenal customer service, these vendors can do very well. The smaller of the vendors, like you're mentioning, are not going to be the best in customer service. That's the problem we have too. It's why we have to stop promoting a lot of them, even though they still help build business credit. The customer service sucks. Hemi says, what trade line accounts get good for a startup? We'll talk about that here in just a minute. So not using your social. Remember, you can leave your social off applications or other applications. It's not that you can't do this, okay? But the credit's ultimately issued by a bank. And there's a federal law as of 2018 in June that you've got to provide your social security number for any bank that's opening up a new account for you. And it's to prevent fraud. It's actually to prevent money laundering, okay? So let's talk about this for a second. I used to teach in the past, leave your social security number off an application. Always never put it on there. If you do, you're providing a guarantee and credit check. And we were rolling along for years that way. All was good. Then in 2018, the government came out with a law in June to prevent money laundering. And this law requires all banks to verify the identity of somebody they're opening an account for. So when we talk about vendors we're going to talk about today, it doesn't even matter. The vendors aren't even going to ask you for your social. The vendors I'm going to show you today are not even going to ask for your social security number. They're not going to do a personal guarantee. They're not going to do a personal credit check. You're solid there. The problem is when you move to the next step of this process, when you move to retailers, when you move to Sam's Club, Costco, Amazon, Walmart, when you move to, Office Depot, Staples, Lowe's, Home Depot, Nordstrom, Macy's, every major retailer, Apple, HP, they all offer corporate credit. When you move to them, it's usually not usually not Best Buy. It's usually not Office Depot offering you the credit card. The credit card is underwritten by a bank. So let's use the example of Synchrony Bank. Synchrony Bank underwrites a lot of store credit cards in the consumer credit space. If you go to get a Best Buy credit card, then I think Best Buy on the consumer side is underwritten by Synchrony Bank. So even though Best Buy is giving you the credit card, it's Synchrony Bank that's actually issuing that real credit card. Well, Synchrony Bank obviously is a bank, right? Because their name's bank. Synchrony Bank's in their name. So I said obviously. So when you look at this, these banks are required by law to actually verify your identity. So they have to get your social now to verify your identity. Now, a lot of them have done this the right way. They just updated their application. This is, we're not using this for credit purposes. We're just using it to verify your identity. If you see that on an application, you're solid. You're fine. No big deal. But if you don't see them have a specific disclaimer that says that it's only being used for identity purposes, then when you get to revolving a retail credit, you need to then not submit the application unless you can clarify on the application that you are not authorizing a personal guarantee or credit check. What this means is it means that when you move to revolving credit, sometimes you have to call them. Sometimes you have to fax the application, and sometimes you can't apply online. So when I apply with Office Depot or Staples, the most recent store credit cards I got, then I call them and I say, hey, I want to apply. What's your social? I'll provide that for identity purposes, but I'm not authorizing a credit check or a personal guarantee. I'll say that to them multiple times. And I'll even say to them, hey, I've had it happen before where I told somebody that and they still pulled my credit. I want you to know there's a lot of problems that are going to happen here if you guys pull my credit without my authorization. I'm not authorizing that. You need to move this application forward based on my EIN quality. I really clarify that. So that's essential. That's the new way to get around actually providing a personal guarantee or a personal credit check when you actually get to that. Okay, and Will says, Summa Crowd Supplies, Uline approved me within hours, purchased a few items between 50 and 75 bucks, now waiting for them to report. And Troy talks about Uline, Granger, Quill was my first lines also. These are great ones to start with. We'll talk about them all. So vendor credit's an important step in building business credit because it's easier to get in store fleet credit. It can lead to more credit. Establishing credit will lead to lenders approving you as well, and the process is proven to work. So first of all, let me talk about that. I didn't invent this process. Credit Suite didn't invent the process. If you know anything about my story, I lost my butt. I almost got pushed to personal bankruptcy when the actual mortgage industry collapsed because I was in the mortgage industry at the time. And I personally guaranteed everything for my business, found out about business credit years later, right? And then what happened was I got frustrated because this process is the exact same process that all these large companies use, but it works for startups as well. But the problem is startups and smaller companies didn't know about it because we don't have controllers. We don't have, CFOs. We don't have financial savvy people that are teaching us. So that's when I decided to teach small business owners how the same concept can work for them as it did for big businesses. So I say this all the time. I didn't invent the process. We found the exact process that big lenders and big credit issuers, big companies use to get corporate credit. And then we just decode it and break down the steps for you. So we didn't invent this. This has actually been around. Corporate credit's been around longer than consumer credit. Okay. The first corporate credit bureaus were around way before consumer credit even existed. So this has been around for many decades. Okay. All we did was just find a way to simplify it and bring it to you. So you need to have credit to get more credit. It's the way that works. Okay. Starter vendors are how you start the process. It's the hardest part, getting the initial credit. Once you get these initial credit vendors, then again, you've got to get credit with ones that report to the reporting agencies. So you got to find the sources who actually report. We'll talk about Quill to start us off here in just a minute as well. And Fat2 Shred says, what's the deal with Quill asking for 3 to 4 months and $100 order? I'll answer that question in a minute. And maybe change policy due to volume of customers. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. I want to give you guys some ideas and some information on this here. So Quill, well, they sell shipping supplies, packaging, industrial supplies. Several people in our chat here from Facebook and YouTube have been talking about this today. They report to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian. Let me stop here. So I talk about trade lines, and I'm also going to talk about something today called payment experiences. A payment experience in the business credit bureau's terminology, a payment experience is the reporting of a credit account to the actual reporting agency. Excuse me. It's the reporting of an account. It doesn't even have to be in a credit account, to a reporting agency. So if I get a credit card that reports to Dun & Bradstreet, okay, then that means I have a payment experience. If I have a credit card that reports to Dun & Bradstreet and Experian, then I have 2 payment experiences. So when I say that you need to have about 5 of these accounts to be able to move on to actual revolving credit, I'm not saying you have to have 5 accounts. I'm saying you have to have 5 payment experiences. So when you have a credit account like this that reports to multiple reporting agencies, you always want to try to grab it. Because if you can build multiple payment experiences at the exact same time, then what's going to happen is it just becomes way faster for you to build business credit. So business credit building to get to the end takes about 2.5 to 3 years. And one of the reasons that our clients get to the end in 6 months when everybody else takes 2 years is that we teach them this. We teach them where the accounts actually report. Here, I'll show you. Here's how our clients, we helped over 42,000 people do this, so we know something about it. Here's how we help them succeed really fast. We don't just tell them that Advanced Auto Parts offers business credit. We tell them Advanced Auto Parts reports to D&B, and Meyer reports to all 3. So if you're in a state that has Meyer grocery stores, well, then you're better off to get a Meyer account and use it than Advanced Auto, because with Meyer, I'm building 3 payment experiences and Advanced is only doing 1. This is why our clients succeed and do it so fast, because they're able to come into a system like this and quickly see whether it's 1, 2, or 3 payment experiences that every account reports to. And this changes all the time. I can show you all this because it can be gone tomorrow. A lot of it changes. That's why we have a data team that manages it. So you can see that Lowe's, for example, here is more important than Northern Tool. And Northern Tool and Amazon are equal importance because they both report to 2. So that's why we want to have payment experiences that report to more reporting agencies. In this world, an account that reports to D&B and Experian is very valuable to us. That's why we love Uline so much. Now, you must have a DUNS number and an EIN before starting with them, and you need to place an order of $50 or more to get it reported. And a few prepay orders might be required to get set up initially. So somebody else asked me the exact same thing here about Quill. Fat2 Shred Francis on YouTube said, what's the deal with Quill asking for 3 or 4 months and a $100 order? Notice I said the same thing about Uline. Uline and Quill are in this category where there's one of 2 outcomes you will get. If you go in to buy from these vendors, so let's talk about how to buy from these vendors. If I go to Uline, I go to Uline's website, I want to set up an account. Then I want to go put stuff in my shopping cart. Then when I go to check out, I want to use the option of invoice me. Now, it's named something different. All the vendors call it something separate. But invoice me is if you know invoice me, you'll know the terminology when you go to checkout. Okay. Now, one of 2 things is going to happen. I'm going to either finish the checkout right then and there, and they're going to then send me an email notifying me they shipped my items. If that happens, that means I got approved for Uline. They don't send me a congratulations email. They don't send me a card in the mail. None of the stuff that we're used to happening with revolving credit cards happens with vendors. None of it does. They'll approve you and never tell you you're approved. They'll never send you a credit card. They won't even tell you your credit limit unless you call them. And some of them won't even tell you the credit limit if you do call them. I don't know why. It's crazy. But what I'll say is this. You'll know you're approved if they ship the item. If you're not approved, they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, you're not approved. You need to place another order and we'll consider you again. Or they'll just tell you you need to place 2 or 3 orders before they'll approve you. And the reason this happens is because of one main thing. You messed up your fundability. So I'm teaching you how to get vendors today, but I skipped step 1. Vendors are step 2 of the process. That's why you want to go to creditsuite.com / let me see if I have this here. creditsuite.com / live, because if you go to creditsuite.com / live, you're going to access our guide that maps out all the steps. Today, I'm starting with step 2. Step 1 is fundability. You got to get your address set up the right way, your phone number, your email address, your website, the licensing, the bank references, the 411 listing, all of that stuff. If you skip that step, like a lot of people do, they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'm going to just jump in and start getting approved. That's why they start asking you for prepaid orders. Prepaid orders are usually required if there's fundability things that don't really reflect that you're a legitimate, credible business and you have no other business credit established. If I go to Uline with no other business credit established and my fundability, I haven't really made sure that this is strong, they're going to ask you for 2 to 3 prepaid orders, which means I have to buy stuff from Uline once, buy stuff from Uline again, and sometimes buy stuff from Uline a 3rd time before they'll give me that trade line. So don't skip step 1. If you're being asked for prepaid orders, it's typically because you have no business credit established and you skipped fundability steps. So somebody asked, how do I fix that? I'll tell you how to fix it. There's 2 ways to fix it. You get your fundability right. Don't neglect step 1. Get step 1 done right. Look, guys, if you want to get loans, if you want to get credit lines, if you want to get credit cards with the highest approvals and the most amount of money and the best interest rates, you got to get your fundability straight or it creates all these problems. And it's not just with starter vendors. The problems continue all the way through the process if you ignore fundability. But if you address fundability, you can get around these prepaid orders. Another way around it is you get credit with other credit issuers instead. So you go get another 1 or 2 vendors I'm going to go over with you today. Then you come back and you jump into Uline once you have some established business credit. So I'm giving you 2 different ways that you're actually able to get around this. And Posta says, what do you think of the NAV Business Boost? I think it's great. I think NAV's program is great. We help get credit monitoring through NAV. And I think NAV reporting the account to the business credit reporting agencies is great as well. And I just have the basic NAV choices. Fuelman's a good card for your fueling needs. They approved me first time. I had Uline, Quill. They will too. We'll talk about we'll talk about fleet credit today. In 2017, I followed Ty's method and started building credit in 60 days. Troy, awesome, man. And congratulations on your success. Lady Vix from YouTube says, are there any good secured business credit cards for brand new startups? I was denied because of insufficient credit, even after offering 20,000 cash deposits. Don't start building business credit with secure credit cards. They're not popular in the business world. You can look into Wells Fargo, Lady Vix. They had one, But last time I checked, they stopped reporting it and we stopped promoting it. And they were the only ones with a good one out there. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. And let me see. Okay. Can I join the credit builder but pay payments? Absolutely, Kenneth. Just give us a call. Our phone number is on the bottom of the slides. We have very affordable payments we don't even offer on our website if you want to get started with us. B says, Ty, what's up? Thanks for coming in. Ed says, facts from Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Okay. So to qualify with UON, you have to have an entity in good standing. You need an EIN number. You need a business address that matches everywhere online. It needs to match your Yellow Pages. It needs to match Google. It needs to match Bing and Yahoo's places for business sections. It needs to match your website, your Facebook page. Dun & Bradstreet crawls all those places. So it's got to be consistent online. By the way, if you follow my training on fundability, all the things I'm about to tell you, you would have already done. You got to get your DUNS number. You can get that at creditsuite.com/DUNS. You don't even need to put the dash in. You can just go to creditsuite.com/DUNS. And I have a quick link to D&B's DUNS number. Business license, business bank account. They're going to ask you for bank preferences. And again, you might need to make the prepaid orders if you haven't done these fundability steps. So everything I just showed you here is everything is in fundability. If you have followed my fundability training, you already did all this and you're going to get approved. If you're missing fundability items, they're going to ask you for prepaid orders. It's how the whole process works. Okay. You can apply by, again, adding items to your shopping cart, going to checkout, opening account, selecting to be invoiced. You can get to them at uline.com. So Crown Office Supplies is another one that you can use to build initial business credit. I don't talk about them a lot because they offer a bunch of different office supplies and they take helping clients very seriously. They're very good with customer service. I actually know the CEO of this company. He's coming on my podcast, as a matter of fact, I think next month. $99 annual fee with them, though they do report that fee to the Business Credit Reporting Agency. So it's a great way to get your business credit report started. For other purchases to report, it needs to be at least $30 or more, and they offer you net $30. I love Crown Office Supplies, and they report to all three. So they are very powerful because they give you 3 different payment experiences. You have to have an entity in good standing to get approved, an EIN number, a business address matching everywhere, a DUNS number, business license, business bank account, and your business must be 60 days old or longer. And again, they're going to charge you that $99 fee, but who cares? They report that, and that's a good trade line on your business credit report. So it's a great place to be able to get started. And Michael Lang says they want a security deposit from me with Fuelman. I'll talk about that here in a minute. Yes, Fuelman Fleet and Wex Fleet. I don't think I'm talking about them today. So Wex Fleet or Fuelman Fleet is another vendor. I'm going to throw in an extra one right now that I don't even have slides on. But to get a Wex Fleet, to get a Fuelman Fleet card, you have 2 options. You can get to them early in the process, or you can get to them once you've established some business credit. If you get to the fleet credit cards, Wex Fleet, somebody here is talking about, what was it again? Wex Fleet is the one that somebody just recommended. Somebody else just said another one here. But if you apply for those, then what happens is you're then able, if you apply for them too early, they're going to want a personal guarantee and they're going to want a $500 deposit. If you wait until you have about 8 accounts reporting before you get to the fleet credit cards, then they won't ask you for the personal guarantee or deposit. So that's the key. There's 2 ways to get fleet cards like Wex Fleet or Fuelman Fleet. You can get them right here in the beginning step of building business credit. They're going to require $500 from you, and they're going to require a personal guarantee. Or wait till you have 8 payment experiences. Then they'll give you a net 55 or revolving account. They'll waive the $500 deposit and waive the guarantee. So multiple ways you can get those fleet credit cards. But be careful. All of these fleet credit cards are underwritten by the same bank. So don't apply for more than 1 fleet credit card at a time until you get approval from the first one. Otherwise, I see this happen all the time. They will terminate all of your applications and cancel your cards if you've had them issued because they think the application's fraud. So don't apply for too much fleet credit at the same time. They're all underwritten by the same sources. You're going to get them all terminated because of fraud. I see that happen quite a bit as well, okay? And Jean Pierre says, I got approved for 9 vendors and only 4 accounts reported, 2 from D&B and 2 for Experian. I applied in June. Can I purchase a report with Experian to verify if NAV is not reporting? Yes, I would. If you have a problem like that, I would report with Experian and with D&B or with the Experian and Equifax. And Jean Pierre brings up a very good point here, okay? You need to know how often they report. Because if you don't do that, then what happens is that they oftentimes can report quarterly, not monthly. So when you're building business credit, one of the reasons that we help our clients do this quickly is that we actually will say right in here in what it takes to get approved, okay, if they report monthly or quarterly versus monthly. So Lowe's, for example, here, if they only reported every quarter instead of every month, we would actually say here that they actually report quarterly, not monthly. If you don't know that, then you have the same problem that Jean-Pierre has, which is the fact that he applied months ago, got approved. Now a lot of them aren't reporting, and he doesn't know why. Well, I'll tell you 2 reasons they're typically not reported. One, you didn't prepay, or you didn't pay as much as you needed to be able to buy the item. So a lot of these companies will actually have requirements of how much you need to spend with them in order to buy. And in order for it to get reported, if you don't spend that amount of money, sometimes it's $50, sometimes it's $100. We just talked about Crown Office Supplies, for example. Crown Office Supplies is $30, right? So if you don't do that, if you don't come in and you don't spend the amount of money that they require you to spend, then what happens is they won't report the account. And if you don't know how much that is, then the problem is that, again, you're getting an account and it doesn't end up reporting. You can see that right here. Again, there's a reason people pay us to build business credit, because as you can see, every problem somebody's having in the chat is something that our system solves. So in this case, the problem is my accounts aren't reporting. Yeah, there's 1 or 2 reasons that is. One, they have a minimum purchase and you don't know about it. So as you can see in our system, our finance suite says there's a minimum purchase you must meet or this account will not get approved or will not report. And some accounts report quarterly, not monthly. If you don't know those 2 things, then you're either not going to spend enough and it won't get reported and it's because you didn't spend enough, or you're waiting and you're getting accounts that report quarterly instead of monthly, and it slows down your business credit building process by a couple months. That's why you need to know those things, okay? And yeah, Jean-Pierre, I would get credit monitoring if you have that problem with the actual reports from Experian or Equifax. And Nika says, do you recommend to spend the 50 minimum even when told is not a requirement in order to report the commercial credit reporting agencies? This is what I was told from Uline and Granger. So Nika's bringing up the same problem again, right? And what Nika's saying is, hey, look, Uline and Granger said always spend $50. But here's the problem. Crown only needs you to spend $30. And yet places like Quill want you to now spend $100. So you have to call them and ask them. If you're not using a system like ours that makes it super simple because it just tells you, then you have to do what we do. You have to call the credit issuer and ask them, how much do I need to spend to get the item reported? And you can't just follow their advice to always spend $50 because some are $100, some are $50, some are $30. They're all different. And the only way you're really going to know how much you need to spend is either work with a company that tells you that, like Credit Suite does, or you just have to simply call them and ask them. It's the only way to be able to figure that stuff out, just so you know. Okay, and choices, I have Capital One Business Spark Card, but you have to PG, you do, that's true. And it reports to consumer and commercial credit, which is why I do not talk about that in anything good that I say. Okay, Wex gave me a card with a $3,000 limit, but I missed a few payments. Michael, and that's okay. That's why you have enough positive credit to offset the negative. And Yaman says, you're great. I appreciate that. Jean-Pierre says, I paid over the minimum required for all 9 vendors, but I guess I didn't know if it reports quarterly or monthly. It's something to ask them and ask the credit issuer why they haven't reported it. And Nika says, Crown Office Supply sounds great. We were recently approved for a net 39 account. Never in my life have I heard of a net 39 account. So that's new to me. And actually, tell me if that's net 30, because that's new. I've never heard of that. And we were told they report to 6 credit reporting agencies, DMBA, Experian, Equifax, CreditSafe, NANCAM, and SBFE. That's true. A lot of them report to a lot of other agencies, but it doesn't even really matter. Equifax, DMB, and Experian are the main ones you need to know. So let's talk about Granger. They sell hardware, power tools, pumps, and more. They report to DMB. They have a minimum purchase of $50. They offer net 30 terms. You can get approved at Granger.com. Okay, to qualify, you need an entity in good standing, an EIN number, a business address that matches everywhere, a DUNS number, a business license, a business bank account. They may ask you for additional documents, including account payable, income statements, balance sheets, all of that stuff. And again, typically this stuff is needed when your fundability is not set up the right way, okay? And that is the problem, is that if your fundability is not set up the right way, you are going to be asked for all kinds of stuff that you don't have, and it slows down your process. And again, I promise you, my purpose today is not to self-promote me at all. You know, I don't do that or Credit Suite. But the reality is, I need you guys to understand, we have a group with over 30,000 people. In the last 28 days, there's been 58,000 engagements in the group. Think about that. Almost 60,000 likes, comments, and questions asked in the group in 28 days, less than a month. That's how active this group is. But the problem is you have novices teaching novices. And the things that you need to know to make this process fast are this. Which order to apply in. We're trying to decide if we're going to continue to call them tiers or not. I don't know. But which tier do you apply for in which order? How many accounts do you need to report before you can get approved for accounts in that tier? Some need 3, some need 5, some need 10. So if you go to get a Staples and Staples needs 8 accounts on your business credit report to get it, and Office Depot needs 6, well, then you need to start with Office Depot, not Staples. But if you don't know this information, you're going to go start with Staples, and Staples will deny you and you won't know why. Then the only option that you have is to keep getting more credit and come back to Staples at a later point in time. The simple path is to know the right order to apply, the right tiers, to know how many trade lines you need to get approved. We even mark here in color if somebody can get approved, and we gray it out. We won't even let them apply if they can't get approved. We tell them if you're recommended or it's not recommended. Here's one. You can qualify for all of these accounts right now, okay? But you cannot qualify for these accounts. These are not recommended because you don't qualify for these accounts. That's why they're not recommended. It's one of the reasons that we do what we do to make it simple for people to apply. You're only applying for what you need. Next thing you need to know. You need to know the underwriting guidelines for the sources, what they actually takes to qualify and get approved. You need to know who they report to. You want to know the terms that they offer. You want to know how to apply. You want the quick link to apply. You want special instructions to know what to do to avoid these problems. If you have this, you speed through the process because there's no guessing, there's no question. You just know the stuff. But if you don't know it, you run into all of the questions that we're running into today. Why isn't it reporting? How much do I need to spend at this place in order to get approved? What order do I apply with? How many accounts do I need reported to get to the next source? Not knowing this is why it takes people 2 to 3 years. It's just the difference between having that knowledge and not having that knowledge. Now, we did talk about WEX. They report to all 3 reporting agencies. Really good card to have. They offer universal fleet cards, heavy truck cards, universally accepted fleet cards, all as well. Their cards have features supporting a small business that includes a rewards program. But again, as I mentioned, you need to stop and never apply for more than 1 fleet card at the same time, or you will get denied because they think it's fraud because they're all underwritten by the same sources, guys. Okay, a lot of these places are Staples and Office Depot, both underwritten by Citi. You go apply for Staples and Office Depot at the same time, you can get them denied because you don't know that they're underwritten by the exact same bank. And the bank sees it as potential fraud. So there's something to look out for. You can get it at wexinc.com. To qualify, you needed any in good standing, an EIN number, a business address, a DUNS number, a business license, business bank account set up, and a phone number listed with 411. I want to stop here. I talk about listing your phone number with 411 all the time, but I want you to notice something. This is the first vendor I've mentioned it's needed. This is why fundability is so important. Because fundability is everything you need to do to get max approvals for your business. You can ignore me and you can say, I don't want to list my phone number with 411. I'm not going to do it. And so far, as you've seen, you'd probably still be able to get approved for Granger. You'd still be able to get approved for Crown. You'd still be able to get approved for Uline. You would have got those 3 with no issues. No big deal. You could have got them all. But the minute you got to WEX, you'd get denied. And you wouldn't know why. And you'd be like, why did WEX deny me? Well, WEX denied you because you didn't have the phone number listed with 411. But you were deceived into thinking you didn't need it because you got Granger fine. You got Uline fine. You got, you went in and you got Crown Office Supplies fine. This is why fundability is so important. Some sources like Amazon will approve you if you use a home address on the application. Some sources like Amazon will not approve you, or some sources like Walmart will not approve you with the home address. Some sources will get you approved if there's a discrepancy with your phone number. WEX will do that, no problem. But Staples won't. If your phone number doesn't match everywhere online, Staples won't approve you. I don't know why, but that's the way that it is. Every one of these credit issuers has these very unique requirements. So when I talk about fundability, if you did all of the things I teach, you're able to come in and get all these accounts with no problems. But if you don't do the things I teach, like get 411, you get Granger, you get Uline, you get Crown, you be rolling, everything's good. And then bam, you get denied WEX. And WEX wouldn't tell you why, and you wouldn't even think about it, that being related to a 411, because you already wrote that off when you got to the other approvals. This is why you got to build your fundability, because they all have these weird nuances that you must meet. And fundability is what gets you approved for all of them, not just some of them. And if approved based on business credit history, if you're not approved, as I mentioned, they're going to want a $500 deposit. They're going to want a personal guarantee. It's always going to be required, typically, unless you have 8 payment experiences. WEX, Fuelman Fleet, there's, I don't know, like 10 big fleet cards out there. They're all the same way. They're going to require $500 down and a PG if you don't have enough accounts reporting with them. It's just how that actually works, okay? The NICA says Granger and Uline said there's no minimum spending requirement. Here's another point. NICA brings up a good point. They said, okay, this is exactly, let me explain to you what I just read. I want to, okay. So, you know, I've got 2 different people saying 2 different things in the comments. One person saying Quill or Uline said there is no minimum. Somebody else comes in and says there absolutely is a minimum with Uline. Somebody at Uline told me there is. Somebody at Uline told me there isn't. So again, this is the problem with misinformation. And my advice to fix it, always ask 3 people at the company. I call Office Depot and ask them a question. I hang up. I call again. I hang up. I call again. Okay, that's what you should do. Our data team has relationships with underwriters. That's how we know the facts. We actually talk to underwriters, not the front-on people that answer the phone. But if you want the best answer, talk to 3 people. It's the best way to do it. And NICA says, should there be a balance on the account at the time of reporting, or is it best for the invoice to be paid in full? It's best to be paid in full, but it's really not going to hurt your score if it's not. Jean Pierre says, are Experian reports a monthly subscription or a one-time payment? You can do both. They give you both options. Deidre from Facebook says, I love business credit because Ty gives me the tools I need. Thanks, Deidre. I appreciate that. That's awesome. And Ricky says, just curious, how many experiences to qualify for Dell? I don't know. I'd have to look in my finance suite. If I have time before we wrap up, I will. But you need at least 5 payment experiences to get Dell. I would lean on the 8 side. I don't have them all memorized because I have a cheat. I have a guide. I have like my own little cheat thing that allows me to cheat. So I will try to go in here and check Dell if I get a chance later and figure that out. But again, everybody, you see, these are the questions I get all the time. How many do I need reported to get Dell? How many do I need reported to get Amazon? How many do I need to get reported Staples? These are the problems you run into when you're trying to do this on your own. You just don't know any of that information. I'll try to find out Dell for you. Sale the Big Orb says, if I become a client, is my access to your dashboard time limited? No, you get access forever. And our advising team will work with you for a year because you don't need them after that. And if you do, we'll work with you after that. Quill has a minimum of $100, says Vicky. We talked about that already. Let's bring up Quill. They're another one that's not on my slides. Quill is a great one as well. There's a reason I didn't add him here. Quill's back and forth. Sometimes they've been reported to DMB. Sometimes they haven't been. They've been so unreliable, we no longer recommend them as a vendor. But you need to verify with them if Quill still is reporting. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are. Their requirement now is a minimum of $100. Their underwriting requirements are exactly the same here, except they don't have the 411 listing. If you meet these requirements and you spend $100 to Quill, Quill's a great one to get office supplies with as well. Just verify they report to DMB because they've been pulling back from that. Micah says, do you know if Granger eventually reports the agency? They do. I spoke with at least 3 different reps who said that they don't report regularly, and one said they don't report at all. They typically report quarterly. And that's why you need to speak with somebody at Granger. Last time we checked with them, they are still reporting, and it is quarterly, and we usually check with them on a weekly basis, just so you know. Strategic Network Solutions. They offer technology training and tech support. They report to Experian and CreditSafe. CreditSafe's a big up-and-coming reporting agency. They're big in the UK. They're becoming big in the United States as well. A credit limit of about $1,000 they're going to give you as a new business, and they'll raise it every $500 if you keep spending money, if you keep using it. You can get approved at Stntsol.com as well. You need an entity in good standing, an EIN number, a business address, a DUNS number, a business license, a business bank account. Again, you need a DUNS number here. You don't need a DUNS number with some sources. And bank accounts are needed not because they're going to verify the bank account, but because they're going to ask you for a bank reference. That's why that's actually so important. So to recap, a lot in uncertain times, you need to go into something reliable, and business credit's a reliable way to build your business credit, right? It's a smart decision because not only does it help you get money for your business when you can't get money elsewhere, but your business credit's used to determine if you'll get approved or denied loans and credit lines, the rates and terms you'll pay, and the actual amount you'll get approved for. So if you want to get approved for the most money at the best terms for your business, you got to build your business credit. If you don't, you're going to really struggle to get good interest rates and good terms on loans and credit lines. You can't even get an SBA loan without having established business credit. Vendors are the way to start. We talked about 5 today, but let's be honest, we talked about more than 5 today as well, because we've also thrown in a couple others outside of the main ones we talked about. We talked about UI, we talked about Granger, we talked about strategic network solutions, we talked about Crown, we talked about WEX. We've also jumped in here and talked about Quill as well. And I think we talked about a couple others earlier on in the process. So I think all in all, we talked about 7 vendors, and you only need 5 payment experiences to move on to revolving credit. So you should be good. Terms are usually net accounts, as we talked about, and business credit. And as a result, a good business credit, building it builds a good credit profile and score. And that helps you qualify for even more. And again, our finance suite has a lot more vendors than this. Our vendors will help you build websites. They help you get SEO. They will help you get phone lines. So that's what our vendors do. Our vendors that are in our finance suite sell t-shirts. They sell phone lines. They sell websites. They sell marketing services. They sell SEO services. So you're able to get all that stuff you need for your business while building business credit at the same time. But I keep that under wraps. I don't disclose a lot of the vendors that we use because that's privileged information our clients get. I still want to teach you how to succeed, but I still need to make sure that our clients have privileged information that everybody else just doesn't get. Okay, it's part of the agreement arrangement we have with them. So hopefully you know a lot more about building business credit. Grab our free guide at creditsuite.com/live. This maps out all the steps. We talked about step 2 today. We didn't talk about step 1. We didn't talk about step 3, step 4, step 5 of this process. We talked about 1 of 5 steps. If you want the other 4 steps, go to creditsuite.com/live. If you got value from this, hit the like button, hit the love button, hit the share button. I appreciate that, and it helps us help other people. As an entrepreneur, you need to be cool with helping other entrepreneurs. That's what I'm here to do. It's my mission in life. So help me help other people by liking, commenting, and sharing. Subscribe to our channels, and we'll notify you when we go live. By the way, we go live Tuesday and Thursday at 1, 11 o'clock on Wednesday, all Eastern time. Almost all of our live trainings are all about how to get credit, how to get loans, how to get financing. Yesterday, we talked about equity crowdfunding. Not huge attendance because most people don't even know what it is, but it's a brilliant way to get money. It's worth going back and look at. And we also talk about starting and growing a business and making it successful as well. If you got value from this, Instagram, Twitter, we release content daily. Again, I mentioned when we go live on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook as well. And we have a podcast called The Business Credit Financing Show that's going on 400,000 downloads. So it's extremely popular. You can listen on the go, not only to this kind of information, but I bring in authorities, industry experts that teach all kinds of cool things, like even how to make your business more valuable, how to exit, how to sell your business, all kinds of stuff. So check out your podcast for that stuff as well. And let us know if you have any questions along the way as well. And let me go ahead. I want to make sure that I answer any other questions that you have. And Troy says, I also use Strategic and Office Depot first. They're good. But as Troy said, and Troy brings up a good point, you can start with revolving credit like Office Depot. But if you start there, they're going to require a personal guarantee, and they're going to give you net account versus revolving account. So keep that in mind. It is possible with some sources, but you'd have to PG and have to get a net account versus revolving. You got to make those decisions. Christine Hansley says, how often do you need to purchase to keep the account active? You don't. If the account were not active, I would purchase one every 6 months. They're typically not going to close the account, but your credit reports don't show your credit limit. They show the amount you've recently used that account. So we use our accounts every quarter at least, use it at least every 6 months. And remember, your business credit reports will show what you're recently spending on that card. So if you want to get the max benefit for using those trades, you really got to be using them to make sure the bureaus show how much you've recently used. Okay. And Nigel says, thank you for your feedback. Thanks for all your comments and engagement. I appreciate it. And the vendors are amazing. Deidre, thank you very much. And Troy, thank you as well from YouTube. Thanks everybody for tuning in from YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. I hope you got a lot of great information. I'm going to circle back around next Tuesday with more cool information on how you can build business credit, how you can grow a successful business, and how you can get financing as well. If we can help you along the way, if you want the faster path to building business credit, or just want us to do a free fundability search to see how fundable your business is, or you just want your business credit reports for free, if you just want to see how much money you can get, credit lines, loans, it all happens on a consult call with us. We give it all for free. So just give us a call, 877-600-2487. We'll get you your credit reports for free. We'll do a funding assessment for you for free. We'll do a fundability assessment for you all for free as well. Give us a ring at 877-600-2487 to get that. And I'll see you next week as we talk more ways to get business credit financing for your business. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.